Hi there. So it's Kathy with Be Creative with Kathy, and today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to make a card or anything. I'm going to just talk about Stampin' Up's new cut and emboss machine. And I have to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous about being live here on Facebook today because, well, I don't work for Stampin' Up. I guess I sell Stampin' Up products. I love Stampin' Up products, but I don't have all the knowledge. All I have is a little bit of experience. And I guess that little bit of knowledge I have and that experience, that's what I'm going to share with you today. But before we get into the machines, die cuts, emboss folders, I'm kind of excited. I just got done with my April Stampa Greeting class. Yep. So here's the cards for my April Stampa Greeting class. Now how Stampa Greeting class works, I cut out all the packets of cardstock, embellishments, and ribbon. In this case it's twine, and then you supply the stamps and the inks, the blocks, and the adhesive to make the cards. Now in Stampa Greeting class you get two each of 4 different designs, so you get 8 cards. The class is $25, and all the cards I make them on a video, so you watch the video at your own leisure and make your cards. So watch for on my YouTube channel. I'll have the video with all the details and all that coming out soon. But I just wanted to show you, I was excited about my cards for my April Stampa Greeting class. The other thing I want to tell you about is that Stampin' Up's annual catalog is only good through May 3rd. And so at the end of every Stampin' Up catalog, they put out what they call a retirement list. And now a retirement list is just a list of items that won't carry over into the next catalog. So that list comes out March 24th, which, believe it or not, is Wednesday, day after tomorrow at 1 p.m. And stuff on that list sometimes is discounted, but sometimes goes really fast. So if there's something you want to see if it's going to carry over to the next list, or to the next catalog, or if you want to see it's not going to be carried anymore, the retirement list comes out, like I said, March 24th. And I'll have that on my blog, which is becreativewithkathy.com, and there'll be a link. If you're watching on YouTube, the link will be below, and on Facebook I'll put it in the comments so you can go to my blog. Now that, like I said, won't be up until March 24th. After 1 p.m. You'll have to give me a few minutes. But anyway, so let's go over. So like I said, today we're just going to strictly, I'm not going to make a card. We're just going to talk about Stampin' Up's die cut machines. Because people have asked me what I think of Stampin' Up's new die cut machine. And to be honest with you, I was a little worried because I loved my Big Shot with the Sizzix die cut machine. But I do absolutely love the new machines. The first reason why is because they come... There's a mini machine and there's a standard machine. And the mini machine is small and light. The standard machine is big and heavy, which I like. The other thing I like about them is they fold up. So I can now store both machines where I used to just store the one machine because they take up less room. Okay, the other thing I really liked about the machine, and now we'll start with the mini machine, is that all the plates you need come with it. So you have the plate that uses, the plates, because you need number 1 and both number 2s for the thin dies, and it says right here on the plate. And then you have the plate for the standard embossing folders and for the 3D embossing folders. And we'll talk about those in just a minute. So that's one of the things I liked about how the machines come. The same thing with the standard machine. It comes with everything you need, like your platform, your 2 clear cutting pads, the oh no, I think I'm good. The this is so you can use that with your thin dies. Let me get this straight. And then you have this cutting plate that we used to call this the specialty plate, but now it's just a plate that comes with it. You don't have to buy it extra. It just comes with the machine, and this is for some of your embossing folders. Okay, so let me tell you the other thing I like about, besides the fact that it folds up and is easier storage. Have you ever used your die cut machine with your embossing folders and it chews up the edge of your embossing folders because they barely fit in here. There's so much room here that your embossing folders, and let me take one here, especially the larger embossing folders, there's room here, so see how there's room on the side? It won't chew up your embossing folders. You have room, maybe it's better to see it this way. There's that, yeah, there you go, that you can run it through and it won't eat up your embossing folders. And I really like that about the machine too. So let's go ahead and talk about embossing folders now. So Stampin' Up, where'd my catalog go? Because I think it's easiest to show you this way. Maybe not, but we'll see. So here on the annual catalog, back here, where are they? Here they are. The embossing folders come in either what they call 3D or standard. And you can tell because the 3D embossing folder, this is the seaside or the seabed 3D embossing folder. And then let me see if I can find a standard embossing folder. This is a standard, and look how much thicker the 3D folder is than the standard embossing folder. That's why you need to use different plates. Now, if you're like me and you bought embossing folders that necessarily haven't retired, for example, I have the, this is called the Tin Tile 3D. Now I know this says Sizzix on it, so this is one of the old styles. It's not the one that Stampin' Up makes now. This was made by Stampin' Up. And this I think was called a dynamic folder. And if you look at the difference, look how thick that one is compared to now Stampin' Up's 3D. So in this one, you can still use it with the new machine. You just have to use different plates and you have to run it through and well, I'll show you now. So with the, I'm going to just bring in my plates and not all the, try to explain that. We'll see if I can. Okay, so when you're going to do your embossing folders, you would put your plate down, or number one, the platform. And then depending with a 3D embossing folder, you would lay that down with your paper and then use the specialty plate and lay that on top and run it through your machine, right? If you have a standard folder, you would run the embossing folder and then a number 3 or a clear cutting plate, your paper, just your standard embossing folder, and then another clear plate, and you'd run it through like that, just like we used to run through all the standard embossing folders. Now, if you have one of those old embossing folders that still say Sizzix on it, that's the dynamic ones that are really thick, you would just omit this bottom plate and you would put your folder direct onto the platform and then your top plate. But that's only for the ones that have the old embossing folders that just say Sizzix on it. So if you have all the new embossing folders, or I should say current embossing folders, they're either the 3D, now where did he go? I lost my 3D embossing folder. Oh well. The and they come in the big size. Did I set him down somewhere? Oh well, they either come in the big size or they come in the normal size. And one is 6 by 6 inches, no, this is 4.5, and the other one I believe is 6 inches. And then they do have some for the mini machine that you can run through the mini machine as well. I hope that helps. I probably ramble on and don't make any sense, but maybe that helps with your embossing folders and your die cut machines, because when Stampin' Up switched over to the new machine and started making their own products, everything changed, and to me it got a little bit confusing. So that's hopefully helps you get that straight. Now let's talk about other things I like about the machine. Besides, put all this away, besides this being wider here, I think let me put this away, I think the sand in here is a lot tighter, because some of our dies I have some samples here, to where you can emboss, let me find Nope, not this one. It's this one. I'm going to use the poinsettias. Now this is a bundle that was in the winter, I'll call it, mini catalog. You can still get it online, it's just not in a catalog. But look how it has the embossing and cutting on that flower, on that poinsettia. Now, honestly, when I tried this set at first and I didn't use the new machine, I couldn't get the embossing to really emboss like that. This new machine must be, the sandwich must be tighter or something that really gets that embossing on there. Because, so if you don't know, Stampin' Up! Has dies that cut and emboss like this one does. And you get this pretty poinsettia right here. They have ones that just cut stuff out, like the flower, the inside, that just cuts. They have some like this. Now this is another one from the holiday mini catalog that's online but not in the catalog. And this piece here, all it does is like make an imprint. It doesn't cut anything out. It just like makes a print on your paper. This one does too, and then you can cut this out. So that's another thing that Stampin' Up's dies do, and I think that the new machine gives you a much better cut or a much better impression on your paper than the other machine did. And it could just because we're using new Stampin' Up products, so you need the new Stampin' Up machine rather than the old Sizzix stuff. Okay, so another thing that I think this machine does, have you ever had a die like this one that tries to cut out those little teeny tiny pieces and you just can't get it to cut out? Have you seen this die? This was a die that I got, well, when it first came out and we still had the old machine, and I tried to use it and I ran it back and forth and I scrubbed on it and I couldn't get all those itty little bitty pieces out. Well, now with the new machine, excuse me, I brought that back out and it does cut all those little pieces out. Let me show you how I set it up, and I think it's just beautiful when it's all done. And it's a lot less work than it was, let me turn it this way, with the old machine. That's what I'll call it. Now, I don't have anything against the old machine. I loved my Big Shot when I had it, but now I'm glad that Stampin' Up! Has come up with something a little bit better. So we're gonna go platform number 1, adapting plate number 2, and then I'm going to do something different because you know I save a plate that I usually put down the bottom, so it's pretty tore up. But in this case, I'm gonna put the top plate, or the one that's not quite as, I'll call it eaten up, on the bottom. I'm gonna lay my die down with the cutting side up, and then I'm gonna lay my paper on there. Now this is nice for 2 reasons. We're gonna get a better cut with the die up, and I can see where I wanna put my paper. Excuse me. And then I'm gonna put my bottom plate, my bottom cutting pad on the top. So I hope that all makes sense. But when you run it through now, and I am gonna run, and it's a tight squeeze, let me tell you, like that. Right, let's take that out. One time through the machine was all I did. Usually I would have to run it through 2 or 3 times, but you can see all those little pieces are definitely cut out. This is the back. And then of course I'm going to use, this is another product I suggest you have. Now I've put mine in an old paper pumpkin box, but it looks like this. It's the die brush. Now it comes like this, and it comes with 2 of these little pads like this. I put an old pad in there because these you'll tear up with your die brush, but I just take my take a pick tool, take this piece off, put this piece on, lay this. Now I have to tell you, the paper pumpkin box with my brush in there was not my idea. I think it was Connie Stewart's idea, but I think it's brilliant because it keeps all those little pieces under control. And then when I scrub it with my brush here and get all those little pieces out, I'm going to turn it this way because I'm right-handed, so I think it's easier to go this way. And scrub maybe a little bit off of the brush and get all those. But then all those little pieces have almost, well, almost, it's not perfect. I'd have to scrub a little bit more. But if you would have seen before, trying to get all those little pieces out. Now, because the die cut machine is so tight when you run it through, and this is such a big embossing, or I mean die cut piece, I'll have to might take a pick tool and get that off this way. But now look how pretty, and just one swipe through the machine, you have that beautiful piece of paper. And look how pretty it is on a card. Isn't that nice? And before, you wouldn't have been able to get that die cut out that easily with the old machine. The new machine is just the bomb. Okay, another thing, now this, I think that's all that I have to say about the machine, but let me give you one more tip before I finish today, and that is this. If you have a die and it's given you some trouble, say for instance, I'm going to use, if I can find it, this die right here. Sometimes I have trouble, this die won't come out of my machine, or it doesn't cut the way I want it, and I don't think it's because the die is dull, or the die is, you know, breaking or losing its stuff. I think it's just a little bit dirty. It has all those paper shards in there that we need to get off. So my suggestion is, when you have a die like that, you take your machine. I'm going to set up my platform the same just to cut it out. This time I'm going to put my number 1 on there, my number 2. I'm going to go ahead and put my bottom plate on. And then I have just a little piece of garden green cardstock. And then I'm going to take a piece of wax paper. Now, I don't know anything about wax paper. The only time I seem to use it is in my stamp room. But I'm going to just, so I don't, what I'm getting at is I don't know if there's, like if Reynolds is the good wrapping or wax paper, or if generic would work. I think they would all work all the same. But I'm going to put that wax paper here on top of my cardstock and then lay my die on there. Now, you might have to do this a couple times depending on how often you use your die. And then I'll put my top plate on there and run it through. But now watch, when you take that die off your paper, it's going to be like brand new again. Because you know when you first get them, how nice they work and they just fall out of the die and it's just beautiful. And then pretty soon you get to where you can't use them anymore because they stick. Now he's going to make a liar out of me, what? But you put that, and you know what I did? No, I did it fine. I was like, I did it wrong. But look how nice, and I'm going to get the wax paper off of there. Okay, I've never had my wax paper stick kind of like this, but let's stop it very much. I think I'm all thumbs. There, look, he fell right off. So then the wax paper comes off, and look at how nice your little die is again. It came right out of the die, kinda, but it cut all those little pieces, because what's left in there now, I could just use my dry brush to take out, and they're all loose. It wouldn't take much to get those out of there. So that's just a trick when your die is not cooperating anymore and you think that something's wrong with your machine or something's wrong with your die. It's probably just dirty and it needs to be cleaned with a little bit of wax paper. Because I don't think your dies can ever get dull. It's just a little strip of metal or little edge of metal that cuts them out. Okay, so I think that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching. I hope I helped explain the die cut machine a little bit better and why I like it. If you ever have any questions, all you have to do is leave a comment, or you can shoot me an email. I'll see you back here on Friday, and have a great week. Bye-bye.